I've spent the last 2 spring seasons reminding myself that every tickle I feel in my throat is probably not COVID and that allergies are a thing. I've been lucky enough to be able to basically isolate since the start of the pandemic. Not so much anymore now that we're a few years in, but I hadn't actually had a cold even in 2 years. So this past weekend when my eyes got all puffy and my sinuses filled with muck, I figured that my 31-year-old body had just dived into allergy season head first, despite never really having gotten them that badly. To the point where I actually asked my boss at work for a Zyrtec and spent my Monday commiserating with other allergy sufferers at work about the trials and tribulations of getting pollen in our noses. Well, turns out it actually was a cold. It was a pretty nasty one too, but I hadn't realized that yet on Monday when I had planned to have Eric Olsen over for dinner and a podcast. So he came over. I will apologize ahead of time for my lackluster enthusiasm and even crappier sounding voice in this episode, but I don't think you'll mind because Eric is such an incredibly interesting and enthusiastic person. It makes for good listening. Now, I suspect as this podcast continues, you'll find that generally I have a realist's worldview. A realist worldview could essentially be described as a pessimistic worldview. But that's just me. Now, when I meet people like Eric, who are just so able to push past obstacles, who approach life with compassion and empathy, and just who know without a doubt in their mind that they can work with other people to accomplish incredible things, it sort of recharges me and makes me feel a little less pessimistic, we'll say. It makes me feel a little bit more hopeful about humanity's future, which is a good thing because there's about to be a lot more humans. Now, when Eric was over before we sat down to record the podcast, he got on his phone a notification about the leaked Supreme Court decision on repealing Roe v. Wade. Now, because I follow the news, this, to me, had seemed like a foregone conclusion for some time. But instead of being despondent about it, like I, typically am about a lot of the stuff I read in the news, Eric got all fired up. Now, I don't know if Eric's path will lead him down the road to fight for health rights, but I do know without a doubt that it's people like him that are going to lead that charge. Now, I'm just happy I know that a lot of people like him, a lot of whom you'll meet on this show, a lot of whom I hope to meet on this show, people that I haven't talked with before, because it gives me someone to follow, because I'm, I need those people in my life. I'm a follower and not a leader, so I'm happy to have people to look up to in that light. So give our conversation a listen. Hopefully it'll leave you, feeling a little bit more hopeful about things. Hopefully it'll excite you, and hopefully it'll encourage you to get out there and do your little part in making the world a better place. This is MTB in Review, Episode 2 with Eric Olsen. Thanks.
I'm excited about the premiere of Teen Biscuits 2.
Me too, yeah.
It works perfect.
Good on you for keeping an eye on that, because I wouldn't have caught that.
Well, at first I got that idea that because Jesse Malamud posted something about that, but then I looked through all the premieres that he had listed already, and I was like, well, none of them line up. That's weird. But then they just sent that out today, and it was like, it's premiere at the EWS.
Sweet. Fuck yeah.
It'd be funny to I don't know how busy he'll be, but to like be like, hey,
To Tommy Caldwell.
Tommy Caldwell, yeah.
And he'll know who you are. He watched
Yeah.
at least a portion of that thing.
Yeah. He said he sent me a DM and said he watched the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
He was stoked on it.
That's
He
right.
was so, and thanks for shamelessly plugging us, because we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I figured I was... All right, so podcast number 2. This time we're here with Eric Olsen, who I mentioned briefly in the last episode with my sister Gavi. And I think first things first, we've had a lot going on. I meant to be more prepared for this than I am. I know you've been ultra super duper busy, and there's sort of one big thing looming over us, and that's our trip to Europe. So I think I wanted to start with just getting a brief synopsis, a couple sentences maybe, from you about what that is going to be, and then we can come back to it later.
Yeah, so we're going to be biking between the rounds of the Enduro World Series in June, and that means flying into Scotland, doing the race in Scotland there, and then we're also going to be using public transit and going to London, and then Paris, and then Austria, doing another EWS, and then over to Italy and doing a third EWS, all while being on mountain bikes with bike bags and pretty much just dirtbag bike packing through Europe between EWS rounds. That's it's coming up really quick.
Yeah,
right?
It is coming up real quick.
It's gonna happen.
What, 30 days from now? Less than that, 28 days from now.
Yeah.
We fly
terrifying.
to Edinburgh, and then the first race. Where's the first? Tweed Valley is the
Yep.
name of the race. Is that the name of the place too?
Yeah, I don't want to butcher the name, but it's like Innerleithen or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Scotland.
right.
Innerleithen. But yeah, the Tweed Valley, which will be cool because maybe that's a little more similar to our local Bellingham trails.
At least their language barrier won't be quite as extreme. So.
Yeah. Dario was actually mentioning, which is my roommate, he was like, you'll start maybe on a strong note with maybe like roots and mud or something like that. And then as you get deeper into the summer, it might be like alpine, dry, rocky, dusty. And hopefully I'll kind of ride my way into that.
Figure
with
it
some
out.
fitness and
Absolutely.
some learning experiences.
Yeah, so I do want to come back to that because that is coming up real quick. But before that, so now you know kind of like what's happening. But Eric Olsen, we've worked together for a couple of years now. You approached me through a connection at Ibis Cycles that you had at Fanatic, in a sort of a race kind of setting, looking for support for this racing. But I think I wanted to actually start a little bit further back and maybe, where you're from and how you got into biking.
Yeah, I grew up in Anacortes, Washington, which is about 45 minutes away from Bellingham. It's on Fidalgo Island, but there's a bridge to Fidalgo Island, but all the ferries to the San Juan Islands go out from there. And I got into mountain biking in high school. I'd been doing like other high school sports like swimming and cross country and track and all of that, but I had some friends who were into mountain biking, and there's some community forest lands that we have in Anacortes, and I'd just always been like I'd gone hiking out there with my parents, but I was pretty interested in the idea of mountain biking. And then actually my friend's mom and a few other parents kind of created this mountain bike team through the Washington Student Cycling League, which you're familiar with. And it's like kind of a high school, middle school, mountain bike organization that's meant to kind of mimic or take the place of a school sport. And so for me, that made sense because I'd done school sports, and it just, from there I was like totally hooked on the idea of like riding bikes with my friends after school. Yeah. And I just kind of kept going from there. And
how many days a week was that? Were you guys practicing or linking up for group rides or whatever? Remember?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like we had maybe like 2 practices a week. But then there's also this really neat ride in Anacortes that's called, it's like the Tuesday night ride, but a lot of people call it Ed's ride because this guy, who everyone knows as Big Ed, has this, group that he's created throughout the years, and it's just like, it's on these like private property trails that then link into the community forest land trails, and then it's like a nice barbecue, and it's kind of like, I also started to work at the bike shop, Skagit Cycle, which is like, there's one in Anacortes, and once you kind of like are getting into mountain biking, like you'll meet people out there in Anacortes and they're like, oh yeah, you should come to the Tuesday night ride. And then you show up and you're like, wow, these are all the bikers in the area. And so I was doing that too. So there's probably like 3 rides a week as a group. And then I was just so hooked that I was just riding like every day. And luckily we lived right next to the trails. I mean, most places in Anacortes, you're within riding distance of the trails. And so it was great because I could just leave my house after school and head up and
pop out,
get lost in the little network there. And
yeah,
it's good. Like there's tons of rocks and roots and like absurdly like steep little climbs. Like it's not like big hills, but like there's enough that you can like, I mean, I still really like to ride there.
Develop,
so,
your whole skill set and have a blast doing it.
Yeah.
And then you wound up in Bellingham for college, right?
So first, I actually went to California, San Luis Obispo. Went there for a year and a quarter to Cal Poly.
Okay.
And like, just not because of the trails or anything like that, like just the money and like I don't know, I just didn't click there. Then moved back to Bellingham and was roommates with my good friend Eli, who was also in a similar situation where he was kind of like, he'd gone to Colorado for school and he was kind of like, I don't know. And so we were both like trying to figure out what we were doing, and we're like, let's just move to Bellingham. Like he's really into mountain biking too.
Yeah.
And we're both, we ski, and we both grew up in Anacortes. So we knew what we were getting ourselves in for at least. And so we were like, we're going to like get our footing. We're just going to go to Whatcom Community College, figure that out. And then I ended up at Bellingham Tech after that, and then finished that in the spring. So kind of a slowly like narrowing down and also getting to like less and less expensive college, which was completely worth it.
Hell yeah. Speaking of college, you went to school for what? You studied what?
Yeah, so from BTC, I have like a composites engineering specialization, and I actually stayed pretty consistent. I started at Cal Poly with materials engineering, which is basically composites engineering, but more general. I think I somehow like guessed that roughly right coming out of high school in a decent direction, and kind of kept on that path. I did kind of explore like industrial design a little bit, which has a little bit more like art thrown in there, a little bit more like creativity.
Like how things are going to look.
Yeah, but I realized that like it really was like very much more artistic, and that I am more engineering minded, and I like the creative aspect, but you can still do that when you're engineering a part. Like
sure.
You can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, it's not limiting in that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what I really realized is like, I'm just going to do what I want when it comes to engineering at this point.
Yeah, which actually is a perfect segue into what you are doing now for work, which is something I wanted to talk about, which is Jank Components.
Yeah.
Which is literally whatever you want within. I mean, imagine there's some constraints that you've probably given yourself, but not really. Yeah. So what is Jank? Like, it's not, Jank is a pretty open-ended name. So what is Jank Components?
Yeah, it's funny.
About?
So at Bellingham Tech, in the composites program, which is really cool, the teacher there, Pete Morgan, he's really into mountain biking and skiing and all that too. And so it was just a really cool environment where we could like 3D print parts, or like we made skis, or just, people are making like skateboard decks out of carbon fiber, and like you're just really encouraged to like apply your passions to the work you're doing, which to me is the dream for college stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way I'm able to learn anyway. So it was great. And yeah, like we just had access, like, most people in college now have access to 3D printing, but it was like the first time I really...
What year was this, by the way?
This was, I guess like 2019.
Okay.
Or no, wait. well, I guess at BTC I started in 2019, but then like when I was really using the 3D printers, well, I also used them at Cal Poly a little bit, but I started to like have the skills to design my own parts last year,
Okay.
like a little bit more, or like I had the confidence because I was like, you know, like not in the entry level like CAD classes. Like I'd taken 4 years of CAD classes, and I was kind of like, okay, I can, you know, make the parts that I want to make now, which is good because it means the college actually taught me something.
Yeah.
And then one of the parents on Galbraith Gravity, Matt Shepard, he wanted a holder for his one-up pump that goes on those like 2 water bottle mounts that go under the top tube, that are on like the Transitions and Forbidden bikes and Norcos and all that stuff. And so I whipped this part up, and it was right when Andrew, my teammate, and I had just gotten our Forbidden bikes too. So I was kind of like, you know, invested in that idea. I was like, yeah, cool, I'll make that. And I actually had purchased a 3D printer of my own just to mess with. Like I didn't have any intention of like starting a business when I purchased it. I just thought they were fun to mess with.
Sure.
And so I made this part and gave it to him. He was stoked. And then Andrew and I also put him on our bikes, you know, why not? And then it was like perfect timing because Mike Casimir put an opinion piece out like a few days later, which was like, where are all the affordable accessory mounts?
Yeah.
And it was like
that.
Pink Bike influences the entire mountain bike scene.
Sure.
And so all of a sudden, everyone was thinking about this, whether they wanted to or not. And then Matt Shepard, he happened to post in the Facebook group for transition owners, which is like a quite active group of people.
Sure.
And so then all of a sudden, I was just getting DMs like all over the place. I was like, where do I get one of those? Like, I want one of those. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to sell these. And so I actually reached out to you. I was like, hey Dan, can we sell these through Fanatic? And you were like, yeah, bro. Like you were super supportive, but then, you know, it's like.
Ended up being very little help.
Right. It was like,
it was all said and done.
But like I didn't have a business set up. Like I didn't know anything. There's like, you know, like, how am I, like, can you Venmo me? I was like, no, Fanatic can't just Venmo you for your parts, you know, like, right, okay, I got to be set up as a business and all that. So I kind of got that all figured out as I was going in. It was like right when I hit spring break, and this was before my final quarter of college. And I actually went to visit some friends in San Luis Obispo as this was kind of all like unfolding. Like I'd already planned to be there. And it, you know, I think you called me while I was there and you were like, hey, like this isn't going to be as streamlined as you hoped, like selling through Fanatic. Because I was like, oh, I don't know how to like ship things or anything like that. But Fanatic does, so that would work out great. But then you were kind of like, well, you should just set up your own website, which was great advice. And so then when I was there in California, like I just set up a little website for Jank Components, like got jankcomponents.com, and it was like kind of just messing around. And like I think like I launched the website and then I kind of just like did a test run. I think I shared it in like the Forbidden Owners group or something, just to kind of see like if anyone would order anything. And then immediately like boom, 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 like just, and I was like, oh no, like I was like, this is too much. And like I wasn't even home. I was like, I gotta fly home and like start shipping these things out. And yeah, it's just continued from there.
Yeah, that's kind of been a continuing story where Matt Beer just published another kind of roundup of, I don't know what it was, cool new.
Yeah, the checkout article, yeah.
Check out these cool little, you know, bike brand, component brands, whatever it may be. And Jank Components was first in that lineup. You had made him a Matt Beer holder, his last name is Beer, which I think it seemed like he was pretty jazzed on.
Yeah.
And then I like reshared it on, you know, Fanatics in the shop I work for, his Instagram. I was like, this is great. You had even told me ahead of time that it was coming out. And then I talked to you maybe the day later and you were like, oh my gosh, what has happened? Like I do not have time.
Yeah, that keeps happening to me where I'm like, this is cool and I'm really thankful. And like, thank you to Matt Beer and a big thanks to like every Jank Components customer because like, I think it's awesome, but I'm also just kind of like, I can't do this. Like, I don't know what to do. Like,
Well, you've got races.
Yeah.
You've got races every weekend from now until we leave,
Yeah.
and have for the past few weekends. Yeah, so I guess I'll just say I'm glad I'm not in your shoes right now.
I mean, I don't want to, like, I feel bad that I even complain at all, because I'm honestly like,
No, I don't think it was a complaint. It was just more of like a sense
have I
of panic
done?
that I could
Yeah.
see in your eyes of
Yeah.
like, I have so much to do and so little time.
Yeah, but it's
no,
good.
not a complaint
I
at
just
all.
need to learn, like, I'm getting a crash course in, like, I mean, I guess running a business and just like
Yeah, you are.
becoming really organized and really efficient with my time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like not that good at it yet. You know, I'm just totally new to the game, and it's like, you know, it's run out of my like basement.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, like, this is like the third weird little corner of a house that the Jank Components has lived in, because I
Right.
was also like moving as I was. It's just been a thing. And then like in between houses, like, had it set up running the printer like in Anacortes at my parents', because I couldn't like afford to not have the printer running at all times. So they just got to see this weird little machine in the corner like cranking out
Just
parts
listen
for a
to
little
the.
while.
Yeah.
They thought it was cool. So
It is pretty cool.
thanks to them for that. But yeah, it's great. Like,
Well, yeah, so that's
looking
expanding. It's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
to like it growing, like, I think, you know, racing is really exciting, and like, but Jank Components is maybe even more exciting to me than the racing, just because it's something that I could see myself like, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, I might keep working on this, and like the connection, like, I think I really like meeting people and connecting with people, and like racing's a great way to do that, which you can meet people from all over the world. And then it turns out that having a little business is also a great way to meet people, and in a way, like, people that I almost relate to more than like professional bike racers.
Sure, yeah.
Like, you know, nerdy people, like
Yeah.
engineers and other things like that. So it's been really cool to see like the doors that have opened up, and yeah, I'm excited about the things that might be happening.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into it, but it seems like from other conversations I've had with you that you're not putting boundaries on what you envision Jank to be. Like, you have some, you know, fairly lofty, pretty cool ideas that, you know, I don't know if I got the impression that you're like necessarily committed to them, but you're like, yeah, I could maybe pursue something like that through Jank.
Yeah, I think very naively, like, you know, like, I'm just a kid who just graduated college, and like, I've just got, you know, like any college student, you've got like fun ideas, and like you're surrounded by other college kids that also have fun ideas, and we're just kind of excited that people are buying these things at all, and like it enables, like, it makes you feel like empowered that you could, you know, make whatever you want.
Yeah.
Turns out you can do it. And so like, yeah, I think having no constraints on it is the way I'm trying to leave it, just because you never know. Like, I have no idea what I might want to do like next week, and that's the cool thing, is it's all based on like ideas that people give me. Like, that's how the business started. It's like, oh, like, why doesn't this exist? And like realizing like, cause you think that every bike part should already exist. Like, there's just so many trinkets and stuff. And then you dig into it, and sometimes it's like, okay, that already exists. Here's the link, and then problem solved. But then sometimes you dig into it and it's like, wow, like, why doesn't someone make that? And those are the ones that get me excited. Or like, why doesn't anyone make a frame that way? Or like, you know,
Well,
it's just fun to try and solve
experimentation
problems.
and like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, you called it naivete. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway,
Yeah.
but, you know, like, as I've gotten older, and I'm not old, I'm 31, I'll be 32 in June, but, you know, you or at least I have this sense that is, I don't know why, that like things are off limits, you know, things I haven't pursued might be off limits, or just because I don't know, or I'm not, you know, expert at, which at the end of the day is not true at all. Like, there's nothing preventing anyone from trying to figure something out, myself included. I mean, this is far less lofty than your endeavors, I would, or at least in my mind.
Oh, really? But yeah.
But like starting a podcast is it's not something I ever envisioned doing, but I thought it would be cool. Like you said, to get to know people better and to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I saw this as like potentially a good outlet. So anyways, I'll cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Trying new things. Now, one thing that you have just tried and I'd say succeeded with flying colors in is putting this video together, Atmospheric River Rats, that you've been working on you did work on with Logan.
Yeah.
Logan Patrick Nelson. It's a great name, phenomenal name for a filmmaker.
Love you, Logan.
Now, give us a quick roundup of that, just inspiration, and then how it came to fruition, and then I just want to like touch back on the awesome movie premiere because it was just so cool.
Yeah. So I just am a big fan of mountain biking, and I really like when I was getting into the sport in Anacortes, like, you know, I saw like the Slice of British Pie videos and like was starting to get more into like gravity mountain biking, and I was like, wow, like this is really cool. And like a lot of mountain bikers was just really, you know, inspired and like influenced by those Tommy Caldwell videos. Mm-hmm. And then I've kind of always been interested in the video side of whatever I've been interested in. And then mountain biking, of course, has a big media aspect. And so I've always been, you know, since the very beginning with my friends, we would bring our mom's crappy camera out in the woods. And so this is kind of
cams, not dad
exactly.
cams, mom cams.
Yeah. And so this is just a continuation of that. We were inspired by Slice of British Pie, and then I finally just felt like I had almost the confidence this winter to be like, all right, I'm going to just put an open invite, and I want to film as many people in the community in Bellingham as I can. Mm-hmm. And I had the confidence to talk to Logan at the Whatcom World Cup that previous summer and be like, hey, like, is this something you'd want to do? Mm-hmm. And he'd said yes. And I don't know if he remembered saying yes, but I remembered. And so
gotcha.
I came back to him later and I was like, you remember that? Like, let's do it. And he was kind of like, and then I was like, well, we're doing it. So
too late.
And then
you already said so.
He was probably like, well, no, anyway, because I was like, Logan and I want to film you. And Logan had said like, yes, kind of. And I was just like, that's good enough for me. We're going to do this video. And then we just, like, I just kind of facilitated all of the like different sessions of people. Like I just ran all the like whatever DMs of all the people, tried to find days that work, and then organized with Logan to make sure that we'd have a camera there, or with you or with Doug or whoever I could get with a camera, because there were only so many days we could get people. And then we put together like a 50-minute mountain bike movie. And and then I guess before we put together the 50-minute mountain bike movie, I scheduled a premiere at Colshan because I was like, this is the only day that I'm going to be able to fit this in before Dan and I go to Europe. So I want to have a premiere, and I wanted to have a fundraising event for Vamos Outdoors Project here in Bellingham, which is a organization that I really believe in. And so I really did want an event, not just an online premiere, to try and benefit Vamos. And then Emily Malos, who's the marketing director of Colshan, who you should interview for this podcast.
Yeah.
That could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, she's great.
She had actually been interested in being part of the movie. And I had met her before. She, I think, knew Logan. But Logan and I had been talking about where we might premiere this movie, and we're like, oh, maybe Colshan would be pretty cool. And then I was actually out with a few people, and we were digging and filming for the movie, and I was talking to my friend Tristan there, and I was like, yeah, like, I think I'm gonna reach out to Colshan, and then lo and behold, Emily comes riding down the trail, and I was like, oh, hey, like, I'm Eric. Nice to meet you. Like, I think we'd talked about maybe filming and she's like, oh, yeah, like, that's really cool. And then also, I've been meaning to talk to you because do you want to show this movie at Colshan? And I was like, yes, I would love to. Like, and so that was a really nice circumstance there.
Yeah, surreptitious.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so then next thing I knew, we were meeting and got Andy from Vamos involved. And we were setting up an event, and then I called Logan. I was like, all right, we have a date. And he's like, for what movie? And we had a bunch of footage.
A lot of footage, yeah.
And no cohesive edit yet. And so then the race was on. We had 2 weeks until the premiere to assemble all of our footage. And we
I remember talking to you one morning actually, and you're like, yeah, I was up till 3 a.m. with Logan editing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was several of those, multiples of those involved.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I have to really give it to Logan. Like, he gets a majority of the credit for the edit because, like he's the man. Like, he just took that upon himself. Like, there was kind of this moment where it was like, all right, Logan, like, do you want to do the edit? Or am I going to do the edit?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Because it's just not something you can entirely
Really
collaborate
tag
on.
team. Yeah, totally.
And he said, I want to do it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep bringing you pizza and food. And like, I could do some like timeline work for him and like sort through clips. But yeah, he was just in his cave in his room for...
That soundtrack he put together
so
is
good.
phenomenal.
So good.
So...
Yeah, and I'm really glad he said yes, that he wanted to edit the video, because I am not as good as him at editing video. Like, that's his job. That's what he does.
Sure.
And beyond his job, like, his own style of video. Like, I've seen it, like, Shoot the Trails over the years. Like, he's been robbed at Shoot the Trails so many times. Like just so much better of videos than, like, anything else there, with, like, the same quality of atmospheric riverets, with, like, amazing audio, like, storyline, like, just the way it's shot. So I knew what he was capable of, and he really, like, did an amazing job. For a really long 50-minute video, the quality was there. I was really impressed. So
to bring it full circle, I showed up at the premiere on a Friday. This is 2 weeks ago, maybe. And there was a line around the corner outside of K2, Colshan's second location. There's no tickets required for this. I was like, what is this line for?
Right.
Turns out it was beer. Everybody was there, it seemed like, the whole town, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Emily later said...
A lot of young people, for sure.
A lot of young people, yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people my age. There was a lot of older people, too.
Yeah.
Like,
my high school digital media teacher was there,
wow.
Which was like... He was a guest of honor to me. Like, that was really meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And, like, he's the one who got me into video. Like, he taught me, like, how to use a video camera, how to edit, and, like, created this passion I have for video. And so I had texted him. I was like, hey, like, this thing's happening. Like, I know, it's a drive up from Anacortes. Like, had no expectations. And then he was, like, the first one there.
That's great.
It was amazing. And
That's too good.
And then he came up to me after and was just like, Eric, that was really good. Like, and he's not, like, a core mountain biker. Like, he's more of, like, a rock climber, but and the fact that he appreciated the movie meant a lot to me, because I was like, okay, like, this makes sense to more than just, like, your hardcore mountain biker, which was the goal, I guess. We wanted it to be fun and watchable.
So that's what I really wanted to touch on, was, like, the energy at the premiere and, like, the energy surrounding the whole event and just the movie after the fact. Because I'm not ashamed to admit that I've been telling everybody about this movie. I'm doing it again here right now.
Thanks,
but like, people that I've talked to that have watched it, it's just like the common refrain that was palpable that night, was just the excitement and enthusiasm that that movie really there was 40 plus people in the movie, in groups of between 5 and 7 or whatever. Yeah. So, and all sorts of different skill ranges, from like Hannah B to, people that are sort of just getting into mountain biking and having a blast doing it. And you get to see all that, and you get to, in some cases, hear their story, or in some cases just watch them have an absolute blast and take some spills and have some fun. But the feedback that I've gotten from every single person was just that the excitement and exuberance that they felt, watching it, and then they took home after the fact to like carry on into the year. Was very, very big.
Yeah. Well, it makes me really happy because, so one thing that I've been kind of amazed by, or almost like confused by in Bellingham, is like in Anacortes there was that Tuesday night ride, and it was like everyone who mountain biked in the Anacortes community was all just in one place. It's just a lot smaller than Bellingham. Like there's so many people who mountain bike in Bellingham that it splinters apart into these cliques, or like it can start to feel not like a community in a way. Like it's like this big nebulous, like cool kids club.
Definitely.
And I don't really like that. And I didn't get into mountain biking. Like I didn't fall for mountain biking in that scene. And so while Bellingham is amazing, I miss some of the community aspects. And I really, like with a movie like this, it was like, I want to try and like foster some community like that. I don't know. It's something that I just feel compelled to do for whatever reason. And so I'm glad that showed through to the final product. Because like, I mean, I had such grand goals. Like you have to at least try for these things, like it never turns out exactly how you expect, but like I really wanted to just get as many people involved as possible and like hopefully just bring people together. And I think at least to some extent we did that, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going.
I think you did it with flying colors, you and Logan. I know he was a massive part of that. And I've told him so because he crushed it.
Yeah.
I will put up links to both the movie and the soundtrack. Jamie was out of town at her parents, or her dad and her oldest sister's birthday, so she didn't see the premiere. But she came back, and I just put the soundtrack on when we were cooking dinner, and it was like third song in, and she just looks at me and she says, "Would you be down to watch this again?"
Yeah.
And so then we watched it that night, and watched the whole thing through again, and was just as excited as the first time. So I'll link to the movie. I'll link to the soundtrack. Definitely give that a watch.
It might be a record for the most organ or like gospel music in a mountain bike movie ever, which honestly, it works so well with like the community feel. Like it's like, I mean, because some of those like gospel churches are like the ultimate community feeling. And like,
absolutely.
if we can get one little teeny bit, I don't know if that's cultural appropriation, but they'd probably want us to bring our community together, like their community.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, so, yeah, and Logan actually comes from a religious, like background, and, like, has produced a lot of video for churches and things like that.
Oops.
Oh, Dan's bleeding.
I got a nosebleed.
Uh-oh. Do you want to pause?
Nosebleed in the middle of the podcast. Yeah, I'm going to pause.
Let's pause. Dang. That's all good.
I got blood on my cashmere.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that.
No, dude,
Well, I guess this
is... Tristan, my friend, has also been getting nosebleeds from the pollen.
Huh.
It's like, he's like, it must be like sharp or something.
Crazy. Well, I actually get nosebleeds frequently.
Okay.
But this is kind of fitting because last time you were here, you bled on. Now it's my turn.
Yeah. You can bleed in your own house. I wonder what the marketing people at all these bike brands think when I tag them and it's like a photo of me in a cowboy hat.
I think they probably dig it. Well, still bleeding.
Dang. Reading a very disturbing thing about the leaked Supreme Court draft that would overturn Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, that's kind of...
I just can't.
That's kind of like a foregone conclusion that that's going to happen, isn't
right.
it?
But it's like, now it's like in writing.
Yeah.
The quote, Justice Alito writes in the document, "It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives."
Yeah. No surprise.
I want my elected representative to make decisions about my rights.
Yeah.
I've heard they're very just. My friend Eli, the one that I moved to Bellingham with, he is a logger, or he goes to OSU now for like forestry.
Yeah.
But he's done like grunt logging work for a few summers, but now he's also gotten into the logging sports. Like, like the
Deming
rodeo.
Log Show.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Right.
He was just at nationals. Like, he won the like pole climb thing.
That's awesome.
For collegiate pole climbing.
That's hilarious, and that's also so good.
It's amazing. I was like, and now sometimes when we ride, he wears his like logging clothing, like, or just like weird, just whatever. We actually ran into Finn on Stumpwater, and then Eli's dad is a forester for Sierra Pacific, and knows Finn.
Okay.
And then I was able to make that connection to Finn with Eli. And
That's
they were
perfect.
just like, hey, and
I
then they
bet
like
Finn was
exchanged
stoked.
logging specific words that I didn't understand, and seemed to connect over that.
That's hilarious. Well, sorry for the abrupt pause there. I had a unexpected nosebleed, which I used to get a lot, but haven't recently. I should also apologize for my particularly raspy voice and maybe snotty sound today, because the pollen has been through the roof, and my allergies, which I'm usually don't really get, have been crazy this year. But
I think you sound fine.
spraying blood all over the table and kitchen did make me think of
Not too long ago
when, to bring this full circle, you were over here for a planning session for actually our first planning session for this trip to Europe.
Yeah.
And we had just sat down to dinner. Jamie and I had made hamburgers, or maybe even like fake meat burgers. I don't remember.
Yeah, we made Impossible burgers, and then I was cutting a pickle to put on my Impossible burger. Had my plate pretty much all ready.
Jamie and I were at the table.
And then I cut my finger with your really nice chef knife all the way to the bone, and then sprayed blood all across your kitchen.
Fainted a little bit briefly.
Yep, fell on the ground.
Nora came to the rescue. And it's
super glued it back together, sat down for dinner.
It's on video, actually, at least the aftermath. I had just momentarily turned off the camcorder.
So maybe we'll work that into the video that we're making of our Europe trip.
Yeah, which, is kind of like how I sort of wanted to wrap this up, is just finish, bring it back to that Europe trip. We leave here in 28 days.
Yep.
I will be gone from the 7th to the 15th. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go help Hannah dig at formation. But the panic in your eyes when that Matt Beers article went on Pink Bike and you said, I have so much shit to do, how is this going to work? That's, maybe approaching something like that feeling. Probably not quite, but...
We're maxing out.
We're maxing out. We do want to get a video out, at least one video out ahead of time. Maybe a second one where we kind of talk over what kit we're bringing, what tools, clothes, what our bags are looking like, what our bikes are looking like.
Yep.
That might actually benefit us more than anyone else, just to actually sit down
and go through all
look
the
at
stuff.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
But yeah, people should keep an eye out for those videos, and Yeah, follow along as
Follow along
we
with
get
you.
lost in Europe.
Follow along with me. I imagine we'll be putting stuff on our social media throughout, and possibly videos if we can find the time to be producing them on the fly. We'll see how that pans out.
We shall see.
Yep. But yeah.
But like all these things we've talked about, you just start with some ridiculous, naive goal, and then maybe it works out.
Push on through and
Yep.
see where it takes you. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's gonna be super duper fun, regardless.
Yeah.
As to whether I don't know.
I think it'll be great.
I've been trying not to speculate because
Yeah.
that just takes me nowhere at
No
all.
idea. I literally have no idea what our trip is going to be like. Other than I'll be racing some Enduros, which is maybe going to be like somehow going and racing EWS for the first time. I've created an experience where the EWS is the least exciting and least
Frightening.
like draining part of the whole thing, which I guess is subconsciously intentional.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just how I wouldn't have it any other way.
Need it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe I at least believe that I'll perform better by doing it this way because well, mainly I'll just be having more fun, I think. I think that's
so
really
too.
what it comes down to.
And I'm going to go with and try and do my best to document it. I'm not Logan Patrick Nelson, but I'll do my best. And
we'll have our own flavor of video. Yeah.
I think
Which-
it'll be fun.
Turned out pretty good when we made a little test video with the flat pedals, and
Yeah, people seem to enjoy that.
people like that too.
What do you say? We'll see if people like this. I don't know.
I don't know.
I
Doesn't
did-
really matter.
It doesn't. No, nobody's paying me for this. So we made pasta before,
Yep.
pasta and a pot roast.
It was amazing.
Check that out. I'm gonna try and put a little reel on the Instagram so you can learn how to make pasta. It turns out it's really super duper easy. Speaking of things that you
Yes.
didn't know that you can just make and do, pasta. This is like 3 ingredients: eggs, flour,
It was amazing. I can
and some
vouch
salt,
for it being
some olive oil.
one of the best pot roasts I've ever experienced.
The pot roast was easy too. I'll put the link up for that. It was balsamic. Pot roast is basically balsamic vinegar, honey. I think that was some garlic. That's about it. Some chicken stock.
Whatever it was melt in your mouth.
Anyway, Eric, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks,
I know you've
man.
got a trillion zillion things to do, so I appreciate it, and we'll be talking soon.
Thanks, yeah. Only a trillion million things to do because of my lack of organization.
Hey, cheers to that.
Cheers to lack of organization.
Yo!
Yeah,